The blueprint to the perfect bye week. That's on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. It's Mazda, move and be moved. We will hand out some bye week awards a little bit later in the show. Plus, we've got the debut of a new segment here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, how does Texas win the bye week? I've got 4 things that I would love to happen between now and the next time Texas takes the field next Saturday in the Swamp. By the way, quick nugget, Steve Sarkisian is 4-1 in his Texas career in the first game after a bye. The only loss came in the 5-7 2021 season. So just like everything else, Texas has gotten a lot better post-bye since that first year of the Steve Sarkisian era. Last year, the Longhorns had 2 bye weeks in the regular season. The first one came right before the Oklahoma game. Texas won 34-3 in Dallas. The second one, ironically enough, came right before the Florida game here in Austin last November. Texas won that game 49-17. The Longhorns were up 42-0 at one point early in the third quarter. So last year, Texas 2-0 after the bye, 2 blowout wins. We're hoping for more of the same this year. Of course, the first bye is before the Florida game. The second bye is before the trip to Athens. It'll be a little bit tougher than what Texas had to deal with last season. But that's besides the point. The 4 things that I would love to see happen for Texas between now and next Saturday. Number 1, figure out the run game. This is kind of in conjunction with getting some guys back from injury. That's obviously the best part of a bye is you get extra time to get a few guys healthy. And for Texas, 2 of the best players on the team, obviously the 2 top running backs, Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter, haven't played in a while. In Trey Wisner's case, he hasn't played since the week 1 game against Ohio State. He's missed the last 3 weeks dealing with a hamstring injury that it sounds like he suffered even before the Ohio State game. Maybe was playing hurt in that matchup. Still was Texas's best running back in that game. I think he's the best running back on this team. Of course, the lone returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC from a season ago. He ran for 90 yards on 5 yards a clip in that week 1 loss to the Buckeyes, even though he was dealing with a hamstring issue. He is really good. He's Texas's best running back. He's also Texas's best receiving threat out of the backfield. The Longhorns need to get him back. They need that run game to be a big part of what they do at Florida, but also a big part of what they do throughout conference play. Trey Wisner, it'll be more than a month between games for him. Of course, the Ohio State game happened on August 30th. The Florida game's on October 4th. Making sure I got my months right. Trey Wisner seemingly going to have more than enough time to get right from that injury. In Texas, look, the Longhorns ran the ball pretty well in Columbus, despite the final score. That was one of the most positive takeaways that I think a bunch of other Texas fans had from that game. Unfortunately, in the 3 other non-con games, it's just been too inconsistent on the ground. Texas got some things figured out in the 55-0 win over Sam Houston last weekend, but you look at the running backs, this stat really stood out to me in a bad way. The Texas running backs averaged just 2.2 yards per carry after contact against Sam Houston's, one of the worst defenses in college football. That stat includes Ryan Wingo's long run on the jet sweep where he had 12 yards after contact. So if you just look at the running backs, it was not good after contact, meaning they weren't making a lot of guys miss. They weren't extending runs. They weren't straining to finish, to use a phrase that Steve Sarkisian often uses. And look, you had running backs 3 through 5 on the depth chart. You understand that those guys might not be ready for the big time. That's why you want Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter back. Those are your top 2 guys. And you just need your running game to be more consistent. Obviously, the offensive line is a part of this as well. They need to look more like the group we saw in Columbus than they did in weeks 2 through 4 in Austin. You can't put your entire offense on Arch Manning's shoulders. You don't want to do that with any quarterback, but with what you've seen from Arch in his first year, some bumps, some bruises along the way through his first month of 2025, you can't put all of the offense on him. You got to be multidimensional. This run game has to be more consistent, and they have to be better in big situations. So that's number one. Find a way to figure out the run game. Number two, sticking with the offense here, incorporate Emmett Mosley V into your passing attack. Emmett Mosley, it sounds like he's trending in the right direction. We have yet to see him in a Texas uniform. The transfer from Stanford who came over after the spring, he was getting rave reviews in the summer and rave reviews in the first week of fall camp before he got hurt, missed most of training camp. Again, hasn't played for Texas just yet, but I'm really excited about what he is going to bring to the table. As a true freshman last year for Stanford, 48 catches, 525 yards, 6 touchdowns for a Stanford team that wasn't very good. And Mosley put up those stats despite missing the first month of the season, rehabbing from an injury he suffered in his senior year of high school. So big numbers despite missing a few games at a worse team. I think he's going to add a new element to this Texas passing attack. And with Wingo now seemingly having his connection issues figured out with Arch Manning, with DeAndre Moore back into the fold, we saw how well he played against Sam Houston with the emergence of Parker Livingston so far this year. You had Emmett Mosley. That's 4 really good receivers that I think Texas feels really good about. You get the layering element with this passing game as well. I think DeAndre Moore is going to be great over the middle, 6'2", 205, but has some track speed as well. He's going to open a lot up, both in the vertical passing attack, but also over the middle as well. I'm excited to see him. He's been running, not a full participant in practice just yet. Monday will be the big tell. If he's out there practicing full speed, then he'll be back out there next Saturday in the swamp. Sounds like he's trending in that direction. Get him back. Find a way to get him incorporated in the offense. That's key number 2 for me. Number 3, we'll go to the defensive side. Not much to criticize with this Texas defense. They've done their job. They've been one of the best in the country again. But, one guy who hasn't quite lived up to the billing just yet is Colin Simmons, the preseason All-American, the reigning Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year. He's got just 1.5 sacks through 4 games. He spent all the offseason talking about wanting to break Texas's single season sack record. That's not going to happen at this point. You'd like to see him get more involved. It doesn't matter if he doesn't get the 20-plus sacks this year. You would like for him to be the force that we know that he is capable of being. He has to be more of a difference maker. Right now, he's got more penalties than sacks, more penalties than TFLs. He did pick up a sack against Sam Houston, his first full sack of the season, but he's not looking like an All-American right now. Would love for that to change. And really, that's sort of the one, I guess, gripe that you can have with this Texas defense right now, their lack of sacks. Now, the good news is they did have, I believe, 5 against Sam Houston last week. So that was by far their best performance of the year in that category. But overall, Texas ranks 52nd in the country in sacks per game. This is a group that openly talked about wanting to lead the SEC in that stat. And they talked about wanting to be amongst the nation leaders in that stat. And I thought they could be too. And right now, they're just not there. The Longhorns are also 75th in the country in tackles for loss per game. So not quite wreaking as much havoc in opponents' backfields as I think this group is capable of doing because there is so much talent. Again, the defense is doing just about everything right. You're really being overly critical if we're talking about finding ways to improve them. But more sacks, more TFLs, and I think it starts with number 1, your preseason All-American, to lead the charge there. And last but not least, number 4, whatever you did the week leading up to the Sam Houston game, do that again. Whatever your routine was from the previous Sunday to game day on Saturday, take that with you. Every speech that you gave, every drill that you ran in practice, Sark and Arch Manning had a meeting the day after the UTEP game. So the Sunday, obviously starting game week against Sam Houston, Arch Manning played by far the best game of his 2025 season against Sam Houston. Have that same sit-down conversation with him. I mean, everything you said, everything you ate, every drill, every practice, every speech, all of those things whatever you did to get the boys ready to go for Sam Houston, that's what you want. Obviously, Florida's a much better team. This will be a much tougher test, and the game is on the road. But that was the cleanest and most complete performance. And the first time all year, we've seen all three phases play well for 60 minutes for the Longhorns. That's what it's going to take to compete in the SEC. That's what it's going to take to get you back to Atlanta in December for an SEC championship. So those are the four things that I would love to see between now and next Saturday when the Longhorns return to action. What say you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did I miss? Would love to hear from y'all. If you're watching on YouTube, please comment below with your thoughts. All right, how about some bye week superlatives? We're a third of the way through the season. And of course, we're at the first bye week. So this feels like a good time to hand out some awards. We will do that next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Mazda. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe that it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, they keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, we talked about it yesterday, Arch Manning's 51-yard dime to Ryan Wingo. The deep post over the middle of the field on the Longhorns' first drive in the third quarter. A perfectly thrown deep ball from Arch Manning, a perfect route from Ryan Wingo, who created some separation from the Sam Houston defensive back. Great adjustment in the air for Wingo as well. That was a fantastic play. That's what we've been looking for. We know those guys are capable of that. That was really the first time that we had seen it happen between Arch and Wingo here in 2025. That got me excited. I know that got every Texas fan excited, and that has all of us pumped about what's to come. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Happy Friday to everyone tuned in today. Appreciate y'all checking out Locked On Longhorns and making us a part of your day. All right, some bye week superlatives. Again, first bye week of the year. We're also 1/3 of the way through the regular season. We're all hoping the Longhorns are going to play way more than 12 games this year, but for what's on the schedule, we are 1/3 of the way through. So let's hand out some awards. Offensive and defensive MVP. We've got players to watch for moving forward. We've got most impressive position group. We've got position group that needs to step up. We'll start with the MVPs here. I've got, I believe, 10 of these, so we'll rapid fire through. And of course, I would love to get y'all's feedback as well. Offensive MVP, we'll start there. It's obviously been a roller coaster ride at times for the Longhorn offense through the first third of 2025. I'm going to give this one to Parker Livingston. Leads Texas in receiving yards, tied for the team lead in receiving touchdowns. He's been the most consistent weapon on the outside for Texas. Now, the offensive line has been up and down. Obviously, the running back room has dealt with a lot of injuries. Arch Manning hasn't put it together every week yet this year. I think Parker Livingston has been the most consistent and the most explosive player for this Longhorn offense. He gets my vote for offensive MVP right now. Over to the defensive side of the ball. This one was tough. Again, the defense is playing at an elite level right now. I mean, at a national championship level. They are that good. They're getting contributions from everybody. And Texas played 75 different players in the win over Sam Houston. So a lot of guys have been rotating in and out, especially in weeks 2 through 4. I'm going to give this to Jelani McDonald. Again, plenty of worthy candidates here, but Jelani McDonald with the 2 interceptions, that leads the team. They both come in the last 2 weeks. He's been really good on the back end. He's drawing Andrew Makuba comparisons. Of course, he's wearing the number that Makuba wore playing safety last year. I love what I've seen from Jelani McDonald. He's a great story. He's gotten so much better since the beginning of his Longhorn career, and he's been consistently good. And that's the type of guy you can line up all over the field, and he's going to make some things happen. An incredibly versatile piece who has been even better than I thought he would be thus far this year. So again, plenty of great options here, but I will go with Jelani McDonald as my defensive MVP so far. Most important player on offense moving forward. This is the most obvious one here. It's Arch Manning. If I'm going to ignore the quarterback, I'll go with Trey Wisner. Again, Texas needs to get the run game going. Trey Wisner's the best running back on this team. He's got to look like the guy he was last year. I hope he looks even better than the guy he was last year. Of course, the quarterback's always going to be the answer to the most important offensive player question. So that's an easy one. And then I'll go with Trey Wisner right behind him. Most important player on defense moving forward, a guy we talked about in segment 1. It's Colin Simmons. He's the most talented pass rusher that Texas has. I think Anthony Hill is the best player on the Longhorn defense. I'd put Michael Taft right behind him at number 2. Those guys have done more to this point. I think they're capable of doing more than they already have. But yeah, Colin Simmons, the third preseason All-American on that Longhorn defense. He hasn't quite lived up to the billing just yet. You get him making plays in the backfield, hitting quarterbacks, picking up sacks. That obviously, those are negative plays. They help potentially lead to turnovers. I mean, those are game-changing plays if you're able to get more of a pass rush. And, some of the stats this year, if you look at what this Texas defense has done when they've been able to get pressure, significantly better than without it. Kind of Captain Obvious stuff. That's how most defenses operate. This Longhorn group is no exception. So Colin Simmons, the most important defensive player heading into SEC play. The unsung hero, that's another category that I thought of here for these superlatives. I'm going to go with Hero Kanu, no pun intended. He's been awesome. The Ohio State transfer defensive tackle. Texas brought in 5 D tackle transfers in the offseason. I wasn't quite sure which guy was going to start and who was going to play the most and which guys would kind of get left in the dust. Hero Kanu didn't play a ton for Ohio State last year. He was kind of deep on the depth chart. So I just sort of figured, all right, he might be a year away from being a major contributor here in Austin. It's not the case. He leads the Texas defensive tackle room in snaps, kind of by a wide margin, and he's been very good. He has earned those snaps. So Hero Kanu has been solid. I think, Texas fans are starting to learn more about this guy. I think the rest of the country is going to start learning about Hero Kanu soon. He's been getting the job done. Offensive player I want to see more of, Emmett Mosley V. Talked a lot about him in segment 1. Won't spend too much time talking about him here. Defensive player I want to see more of. It's Brad Spence, the Arkansas transfer. He's been really good, y'all. He hasn't played a lot. He's Colin Simmons' backup. I hope it doesn't sound like a slight to Colin Simmons because I love seeing Colin Simmons out there and we know what he's capable of doing. But Brad Spence, in very limited opportunity, has made a lot happen. His pressure rate is really high. His pass rush win rate is one of the best on the team. Picked up a sack last week in the win over Sam Houston. Also had 3 tackles against the Bearcats as well. I thought he made some things happen against UTEP. I really like what I've seen from number 14 on the defense. I think he's earned some more snaps, and I think he will get some more snaps moving forward. So Brad Spence, would love to see more of number 14 on the Longhorn defensive front. Best freshman, it's got to be Grayson Littleton, right? He's gotten more snaps, and he's made the most of his snaps. I mean, what he did in the Ohio State game in week 1, that just put the country on notice that this dude is a problem. And it's tough. This is a deep team. This is a loaded defense. I mean, Steve Sarkisian talked about it all offseason long that he believes this is the deepest defense that he's had in his 5 years at Texas. I think with what we've seen through the first month of the year, I don't think that's hogwash. I don't think that's malarkey. I think that's the truth. So for a true freshman to get as much playing time as Grayson Littleton has gotten, I mean, he's a starter. Like, that's incredibly impressive. Not a lot of freshmen are seeing significant minutes, and plenty of guys played in weeks 2 through 4, but I don't know how many of them are going to have major roles for the rest of the season. Grayson Littleton is going to have one. He's been awesome. Most impressive position group. We've got 2 more. Most impressive position group on the team thus far. I was back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go with the linebackers. Anthony Hill, it's been great. Leonga has been incredible, y'all. He has been incredible this season. Doesn't always get the love because of who he plays next to, but Leonga has just gotten so much better from last year. He's second on Texas in tackles, 1 behind Michael Taft for the team lead. Just feels like he's everywhere. Feels like there's 2 Leonga on the field on every single play. He's been fun to watch. And then Anthony Smith. We talked about him a lot in the offseason. Like, don't sleep on Anthony Smith. I know he's not a starter. I know he's only going into year 2, and he didn't play a ton last year, but the staff really likes him. and he had a great offseason. And so far that has translated. He's actually tied with Anthony Hill for third on the team in tackles this year. He's got a forced fumble and a fumble recovery, that incredible individual effort. I think it was the San Jose State game where that happened. Those three linebackers have been really, really good this year. And yeah, I'm loving what we're seeing from that group. And then the position group that needs to improve is the offensive line. There's no doubt. Again, they look really good against Ohio State, and it gave me so much hope that, all right, if you can do that against the defending champs in their house, then you should be able to dominate these lesser opponents in non-conference play. And it was better against Sam Houston than it was against San Jose State and UTEP, but still just not what we wanted to see. Way too much inconsistency up front, too many penalties. They got to get better. If Texas is going to win the SEC, if Texas is going to be a legit national title contender, they have to get better going forward. So there you go. Some bye week superlatives at the third way point of the year. Would love to hear from y'all. What did I miss? What did I get right? Let me know in the comments below. We've got one segment left, a new segment to debut. Of course, no game for the Longhorns this weekend. So instead of talking more about a Texas game, we've got the first ever Locked On Longhorns Hate Watch Guide. Oh yeah, we'll get to that next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Longhorns, we talked about Arch Manning yesterday. Let's give some love to Ryan Wingo. 4 catches, over 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was magnificent. His best game of the season. Also had a 31-yard rush as well in the Longhorns' victory over Sam Houston. Starting to come through. It's the Ryan Wingo that we had hoped to see. He looked confident, no hesitation, no delay. I think a streak is coming for Ryan Wingo. And just like Wingo delivered for the Longhorns, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday that you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And also a shout out to our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. That's the key right there. I love how portable the 5 Hour Energy shots are. So easy. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost of energy whenever you need it. I love the grape. It's one of the OGs, but it's been my favorite for years. I can always count on 5 Hour Energy to give me that little extra pick-me-up in the afternoon, on the golf course, just watching football. If I need to make sure I'm staying awake for those late West Coast games, 5 Hour Energy has my back. Enough with boring. Enough with flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. All right, last segment of a Friday edition of Locked On Longhorns. Texas, of course, not playing this weekend, but that doesn't mean I won't be watching college football. And my hunch is that most of you will also be watching college football tomorrow. So let's set the table for week 5. I'm going to tell you who you should be rooting for and who you should be rooting against throughout the day tomorrow. Again, even though the Longhorns aren't playing, there's still a number of games that could directly impact Texas's 2025 season. So we've got the first ever Locked On Longhorns Hate Watch Guide. I didn't leave myself a ton of time here, so we'll go rapid fire here, but would love to get your thoughts. Do you agree with my picks? Who did I miss? Who did I get right? Let's go in order of kickoff. I've got 5 games on tomorrow's slate, all of which involve at least one SEC team, starting with the 11 a.m. Central Time window. Notre Dame at Arkansas. This is a very rare instance. I mean, a very rare instance where I will be rooting for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Here's why. There's college football playoff implications here. We all want Texas to make the playoff. I don't think Arkansas is a legit threat to make the college football playoff. I know Notre Dame's 1-2, but you look at the rest of the schedule for the Fighting Irish, they don't have a lot of tough games. They've already played their two toughest teams with Miami and Texas A&M. There is a good chance that they're favored the rest of the way, which means there's a chance they go 10-2, even though they don't play in a conference, even though a lot of us would hate to see the Irish get in. I think they'd get in because of who they are. They played for the national title last year. They're a massive brand. They bring eyeballs. They bring money. You don't want Notre Dame to be lurking in November to potentially take a playoff spot away from Texas. Again, Arkansas is not getting in. I want the Hawks to win tomorrow, and I feel like I need to wash my mouth out with soap after saying that. 2:30, Auburn at number 9, Texas A&M. I mean, do we ever root for the Aggies? We're rooting for Auburn here. Why? Well, because they're not Texas A&M. But also, the Tigers already have one SEC loss. The Aggies have 0. You want these other teams around the league to beat each other up. Look, if Texas runs the table in the SEC, it's not going to matter what happens around them. But odds are Texas is going to lose at least one game in the SEC. You want the other teams that could be in contention for one of the 2 spots in Atlanta to lose. Like, look at last year. Georgia only got to Atlanta because a few teams around them choked. Georgia was 6-2 in the conference. There were a few other 6-2 teams. They had the tiebreaker over them. So because other teams lost, they had the opportunity to get there. A&M was a win away from making it to the SEC championship last year. Well, they weren't close in that game against Texas, but like they were close. They were a win away. That's my point. And they look better this year. They've got a favorable schedule. So you'd like to see A&M slip up at home. I don't think Auburn's much of a threat to get to Atlanta. I think A&M is the much bigger threat here. Give me the road team. Give me War Dam tomorrow. LSU at Ole Miss, number 4 at number 13. This one's a little tough because both teams are undefeated. Both teams have yet to lose in conference play. I always get worried when teams win on the road against good teams because to me, that's the mark of a great team, right? I feel this way about college basketball too. If you protect your home floor, that's great. That's good. Beating good teams at home is nothing to shake a stick at. But when you could go on the road and beat a good ranked team as an underdog, which is what LSU is, according to our friends at FanDuel, that worries me a little bit. So I think Ole Miss will inevitably slip up later in the year because that's what happens when Lane Kiffin is your coach. Again, this one's kind of an imperfect formula here since both teams haven't lost yet. But I'd rather see Ole Miss win this game because I think LSU is more of a threat than the Rebels are. 3:15, Tennessee at Mississippi State. Root for Mississippi State. I know the Bulldogs are undefeated. I know Tennessee has already lost a game in the SEC. Tennessee's better. They're more likely to steal a spot in the SEC title game than Mississippi State is. I'll tell you what, though, if the Bulldogs do pull off that upset, that Texas trip to Stark Vegas at the end of October will look a little scarier. A little scarier. Mississippi State, that big win earlier in the year against Arizona State. And then last but not least, 6:30, the game of the day in the conference, Alabama at Georgia. I'm rooting for Alabama. I don't want to play Georgia twice if we can avoid it. That may be my UTSD kicking in right there. But let's give Georgia a loss. Let's give Georgia a couple of losses this year, huh? And look, if Alabama wins in Athens, it's going to give me more confidence that Texas can go in to Sanford Stadium and beat Georgia. Do those things actually correlate? Probably not. But Georgia's got that insane home record. They don't lose between the hedges very often under Kirby Smart. If Bama gets them, that tells you that they could be vulnerable this year, and they could be vulnerable at home. So there you go. The Hate Watch Guide in the SEC tomorrow. Those are who I'll be rooting for and against in 5 of the biggest games around the conference. Again, what say you? Some of y'all could vehemently disagree. Would love to hear from y'all in the comments below. But that's going to do it for today's show. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on notifications and leave a comment as well. I'll stop saying and for your next watch, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling. Dang it, I have to say and again. And Kevin Rogers. They're your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We'll do a show this weekend, even though there's a bye. And, of course, we'll be back next week to set the table for the Longhorns SEC opener at Florida. That'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.